Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today by asking you to visualize a very specific, very uncomfortable physical sensation.
Oh, we're getting visceral right out of the gate. I like it.
We have to, because the topic we're covering today isn't just intellectual, it feels physical. I want you, the listener, to picture this. You've just made a decision, a big one. Maybe you decided to raise your prices significantly. Maybe you decided to, decline a wedding invitation from a cousin you haven't seen in 10 years. Maybe you decided to pivot your entire company strategy. The decision is made. The file is closed.
Right. The cut has happened. You've severed the other options.
Exactly. But then you're sitting across from someone, a friend, a client, your mom, and you tell them the decision, and there's a split second of silence.
The dreaded silence.
And in that silence, your chest tightens, your throat constricts like a reflex, and suddenly, without even meaning to, you start talking.
The leak.
It's more than a leak. It's a flood. You start listing reasons. You start apologizing. You start pulling up data points you don't even care about. You are frantically trying to bridge the gap between your certainty and their blank stare.
Wow. Yeah.
Today, we are talking about that moment. We are talking about that trap of over-explaining.
It is a trap that I think every high performer, every entrepreneur, really anyone trying to do something different falls into. And usually without even realizing it's happening until they're driving home completely exhausted, wondering, why did I just spend 40 minutes justifying a decision that was already final?
We are pulling from a fascinating set of insights today titled Beyond the Need for Explanation. And it's specifically referencing a source, QofeBreak 043. And I'll be honest, when I first read through this material, I got a little defensive.
Defensive? Why? How so?
Well, the core premise is this simple, almost brutal sentence. Not everyone needs to understand your decisions. And my initial reaction was, well, that sounds arrogant.
Right. A bit cold.
We live in a collaborative world, right? We're supposed to build consensus. We're supposed to get buy-in. This idea of just deciding and not explaining. It feels almost sociopathic. It feels like something a dictator does, not a leader.
It feels that way because we've conflated two very different things, and this is the core of the whole deep dive today. We have confused communication with validation.
Okay.
And that is the distinction the source material demands we make. If you are a leader or an entrepreneur or just a functioning adult, you have to communicate, of course. But the learner listening to this, our audience, they are usually failing at communication. They're failing at the boundary line, the line where communication stops and, well, where it starts to feel a lot like begging.
Where communication stops and begging begins. That is a rough image. But I think you're right. I think about times in my own career where I pitched an idea and I kept pitching it long after the person had said, okay.
Why? What were you looking for?
I wanted them to be enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
I didn't just want their sign off. I wanted their excitement.
Exactly. That is the beg. The source argues that most over-explaining isn't about information transfer at all. It's about safety. It's about this deep, primal fear that if you don't agree with me, if you aren't enthusiastic with me, then I'm not safe. And so we explain not to inform the other person, but to soothe ourselves.
So our mission today is pretty aggressive then. We aren't just trying to teach you how to talk less. We are trying to dismantle the psychological scaffolding that makes you feel like you have to talk in the first place.
We want to stop that energy leak.
Yeah, because, and the source is brutal on this point, it is draining your confidence in real time.
Quietly draining confidence is the exact phrase used. And I think that quiet part is what makes it so insidious, so dangerous. It's not a loud failure. It's not a big explosion.
Well,
it's a slow leak of authority. It's the difference between a tire blowing out and a tire with a slow puncture time. But eventually, you are going to be stranded.
let's dig into the problem space here. Because we all do this, but I don't think we all do it for the same reasons or with the same people. The source highlights a really specific phenomenon where we tend to over-explain to a very particular type of person.
The unconvincible.
Exactly.
Yep.
The source calls them people who are never going to agree anyway.
This is the central paradox of over-explanation, isn't it? If you look at your own life, you will likely find that you explain the least to the people who trust you the most.
That's so true. If I tell my best friend, hey, I'm not coming out tonight, I'm just completely wiped, he just says, cool, catch you later.
There is no PowerPoint presentation required.
Exactly. Zero friction, zero explanation needed.
But let's say you have a colleague who is maybe a little competitive with you, or a family member who has always been critical of your career risks.
I have one of those.
When you tell them you aren't coming or you're changing jobs, what happens then?
I give them a dissertation. I mean, a full-blown thesis. I explain the mental health benefits of rest, the economic climate that necessitates the job change, the long-term strategy of my 401k. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
And you're laughing, but it's true. You are pouring your highest cognitive energy into the black hole of their skepticism. The source points out that we direct our most intense, our most desperate explaining energy toward the people who are least committed to understanding us.
But why? Why do we do that? It seems like such a bad ROI. If I know you aren't going to get it, why do I try so hard? It feels masochistic.
Because the friction hurts. I mean, really, it all comes down to biology. We are social animals. We are wired for cohesion.
Okay.
So when someone looks at us with confusion or, worse, disapproval, our ancient brain, the lizard brain, registers that as a threat to our survival.
A literal threat.
A literal threat in the ancestral environment. Think 50,000 years ago. Being misunderstood could be fatal. If the tribe thinks you're hoarding food when you're actually just saving seeds for the next season's crop, you might get kicked out of the cave. And outside the cave, you die.
So we have this piece of hardware in our skulls that is screaming, clarify, clarify, or you'll die alone in the woods.
Precisely. We are operating on outdated software. The problem is we are applying that life or death hardware to a lunch meeting about Q3 marketing spend. The stakes are wildly different, but the chemical reaction in your body, the cortisol, the adrenaline, it's the same. You feel the threat, the raised eyebrow, the skeptical huff, so you deploy the defense mechanism. Worse,
That's in lots of words.
you're trying to talk your way back into the safety of the tribe.
But here is where the source takes a turn that I found really convicting. It suggests that when we over-explain to these skeptics, we aren't actually trying to change their mind.
Yeah.
We're using them as a mirror.
Yes. This is the externalized confidence theory. And this is where we have to be really honest with ourselves, if you're listening.
Break that down for us. Because I think I do this and I don't really want to admit it.
Okay. Let's say you are launching a new product. It's risky. You are deep down a little terrified, maybe more than a little. You have, say, 80% confidence, but you're missing that last 20%. You crave that last 20% to feel safe. You want 100%.
Of course. Who doesn't? Uncertainty sucks.
So you go to a skeptic, maybe it's an investor who turned you down before, or a cynical peer, and you start explaining the strategy. You lay it all out. You aren't teaching them. You're not really trying to inform them. You are looking for something.
I'm looking for them to give me my missing 20%.
You are looking for them to reflect back to you. Oh, I get it now. That's brilliant. If the ultimate skeptic, if they say it's brilliant, then you can finally stop worrying. You are outsourcing your own self-belief.
Wow.
You were saying, I can't fully believe in this until you, the person who's predisposed to doubt me, believe in it first.
But because they are skeptics.
They don't give it to you. They never do. They frown. They ask a nitpicky question about margins. They look bored. They check their phone.
And now, because I treated them as my mirror, I look at their reflection and I don't see brilliance. I see a bad decision. I see all my own doubts confirmed.
And you leave the conversation feeling less sure than when you started.
That is the trap. You went looking for a withdrawal of confidence from a bank that has no money for you. And frankly, a bank that kind of wants to see you go broke.
And you paid a transaction fee to do it. That is the real tragedy. You walk away with less energy and less confidence, and you did it to yourself.
Let's talk about that fee, the cost. Because I think we justify over-explaining by telling ourselves, I'm just being thorough or I'm just being polite. But the source is adamant that there is a heavy, heavy cost to this. And I want to get specific here.
For sure. There are two main costs, as the outline points out.
Yeah.
There is the energy cost and there is the authority cost. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with energy, because I think our listeners feel that one the most. Just the sheer fatigue of trying to drag people along with you.
Okay, so let's do a little math. We love a good mental model here. Imagine you have 100 units of growth energy every morning when you wake up. This is the fuel you have to build your business, learn a new skill, raise your kids, whatever your big thing is.
100 units, that's my tank for the day.
Got it. Okay, so making a hard decision, the actual act of deciding, costs maybe 10 units. It's hard work, but it's a finite burst. I am quitting my job. Bang, 10 units gone.
Right.
Now, executing the decision, doing the actual work, updating the resume, networking, building the new product, That costs maybe, say, 40 units. It's the real work.
Yeah.
So you're left with 50 units for everything else in your life.
That sounds healthy. That's a balanced diet of energy. Seems sustainable.
It is. But if you fall into the trap of over-explaining, you are spending 20, 30, maybe even 40 units of that precious energy after the decision is already made, just trying to manage the emotions of everyone around you.
Can you give an example?
You go to lunch with your old boss to explain why you're leaving, hoping he'll understand. That's 15 units. You have a long 2-hour phone call with your mom to explain why you're taking a pay cut for this new venture. That's another 20 units.
So you're running on fumes before you even start the actual work you decided to do.
Exactly. We see this with founders all the time. They spend more time writing these long, philosophical LinkedIn posts justifying their philosophy of hustle culture than they do actually hustling.
Oh, that's a good point.
They are burning their fuel on the performance of the decision rather than the execution of it.
It reminds me of that saying,
Yeah.
You can't drive the car if you're standing behind it, explaining to everyone how the engine works.
That's it. And the source makes a really poignant observation here that I think is key. If you wait for everyone to understand your new direction before you move, you will never move.
Ever.
Because the herd, by definition, is slow.
The herd is slow. That sounds a little elitist, doesn't it? Is that fair?
It's not about elitism. It's about mechanics. It's physics. The herd is designed for safety, not speed. The herd moves at the pace of its slowest member. That is how it survives predators.
Okay, I see.
If you are pivoting, if you are leaving a stable corporate job to start a bakery, or moving your family to a farm in the middle of nowhere, or adopting a radical new health protocol, you are, by definition, breaking from the herd.
You are leaving the safety of the center of the pack.
Right. And if you then turn around and try to explain your new logic to the herd you just left, you are speaking a language they have specifically chosen not to speak. You are looking for a green light from people who are staring at a stop sign.
And if you wait for that green light,
You will wait forever, and
Okay.
your 100 units of energy will just evaporate in the waiting room of other people's approval.
okay, that's the energy cost.
Yeah.
I feel that. Now let's talk about the authority cost.
Yeah.
Because I think for the professionals listening, the managers, the executives, the leaders, this is the one that quietly kills careers.
It absolutely does. And it ties back to that Latin root of the word decision, which is decider. It means to cut off.
We love a good etymology lesson.
When you make a decision, you are cutting off other options. You are saying, the debate is over. This is the path. That is what leadership is. Whether you are leading a Fortune 500 company or just leading your own life, you are the one holding the scissors.
But when you over-explain,
Yeah.
what are you doing with the scissors then?
When you over-explain, you are frantically trying to reattach the options you just cut off.
Oof, that's a great visual. Like you cut the rope and then you immediately start tying these clumsy knots to put it back together.
You stamp the file approved, but then you go to your team and say, hey guys, so we're doing this, and here are the 10 reasons why, and I know it might seem weird at first, but I read this article and the data suggests. What are you actually doing? You are putting the file back on the table. You are signaling this is still up for debate.
You're relitigating your own verdict. You're the judge and the appeals court at the same time.
And that invites challenge. It has to. If you act like you need permission, people will treat you like you need permission. They will smell the blood in the water. It's human nature.
I've seen this happen in meetings 100 times. The boss makes a call, but then keeps talking and talking and talking, and you can literally see the team's confidence just drop.
It evaporates.
They start checking their phones. They start looking at each other. They're thinking, if he's this worried about it, if he has to sell it this hard, maybe it's a bad idea.
Because the leader is signaling their own insecurity. There is a validation loop happening there that we need to break down. It's a key concept from the source material.
Let's do that, because this feels like one of the practical tools. What is the validation loop?
So picture the scene. You're the boss, or the parent, or the partner. You deliver a piece of news. We're cutting the department budget by 10%. That's the information. Now look at your own behavior. What do you do in the 3 seconds after that sentence leaves your mouth?
I look at their faces. Immediately. I scan the room.
You scan the room. You're looking for one thing. You are looking for the nod.
The nod, yes. I want to see that little chin dip that says, we're with you. You're smart. This is fine. We love you.
That is the loop. You deliver information. You stand for validation in the form of the nod. If you don't see it, you add more information.
And if I still don't see it, what do I do then?
You add justification, then you add apology, then you start to add negotiation. You will keep talking until you get the nod. But here is the kicker. When you are delivering bad news or controversial news, you are not going to get the nod.
Right. Of course not. They aren't happy about the budget cut. They aren't going to smile and give me a thumbs up. They're going to look concerned, maybe even angry.
So you are stuck in an infinite loop. You keep talking to get a reaction that is never, ever coming. And that is how a 5-minute update turns into a 45-minute apology tour, where you end up promising things you can't deliver just to make the awkwardness stop.
I'm cringing because I literally did this last week. I did this. I told a contractor we couldn't expand their scope. They looked disappointed. And I spent 10 minutes explaining our company's cash flow issues.
Oh, no.
Until I basically offered to introduce them to other clients just to make them stop looking sad at me.
You paid the awkwardness tax. You bought your way out of the silence because it was uncomfortable.
I did. So we've diagnosed the problem. We know why we do it. It's evolution. It's safety. We know what it costs us, energy and authority. But we need to talk about the mechanics of fixing it, because we can't just turn into robots who bark orders and walk away. We have to maintain relationships. We have to be human.
Correct. This is not an endorsement for being a jerk at all. It's an endorsement for clarity. And that is where the distinction between communication and justification saves the day.
This was the light bulb moment for me in the source material, because I always thought, well, I'm just communicating. I'm a good communicator. But the source says, no, you're not.
Most of what we think is helpful communication is actually just our own emotional management in disguise.
Okay, define the difference. How do I know which one I'm doing in the moment?
Communication is about the what and the when. It is informative. It respects the other person's right to know the facts that affect them. I am quitting my job on Friday. We are pivoting the product to focus on enterprise clients. I am moving to Chicago. That is communication.
Okay. Clear, factual, informative. It's like a news report, the news.
Exactly. The news. Justification, on the other hand, is about the please agree with me. It's the editorial page, it sounds like. I'm quitting my job on Friday because, the culture here is really toxic, and I've been thinking about this for a long, long time, and I really think it's the right move for my mental health, don't you think?
I can feel the difference viscerally. Just hear you say that. The first one felt like a statement, a fact. The second one felt like a beg.
It is a beg. It is a plea for permission. The source calls this when explanation turns into permission seeking. And it is a very slippery slope. It often starts as, I just want you to know, which is valid communication, but it ends with, do you think that's okay? Which is justification.
The permission trap.
Yeah.
And I think in a professional setting, this is just deadly for leadership.
It undermines leadership instantly. Imagine a CEO who says, we are changing the pricing structure, and then spends the next 20 minutes apologizing for it and explaining 40 different reasons why they had no choice.
The team loses all confidence.
They smell the fear. Now, to be clear, in a business context, explaining the why is sometimes necessary for strategy people need to know the reasoning to execute well. That's about alignment.
Right, I was going to say, surely we have to explain the why sometimes. You can't just be a black box.
Absolutely not. Alignment is critical. But alignment and justification are two different beasts. Alignment is, here's the reasoning so you can do your job better. Justification is, here's the reasoning so you won't be mad at me.
That is the distinction. Oh my God, that's it. Alignment assumes the decision is made, and we are now figuring out how to work within that new reality. Justification assumes the decision is fragile, and we need to shore it up with excuses so it doesn't collapse.
Spot on. And there is a very easy physical sign to tell if you have crossed the line from one to the other. The outline mentions this. If you keep talking after the core information has been delivered, you are likely sliding into permission seeking.
It's that uncomfortable silence again.
Yes. It always comes back to the silence after you drop the news.
It just hangs in the air. It feels so heavy.
You say the thing, I am raising my rates. Then there is silence. That silence is heavy. It's socially awkward. Our brains are screaming at us to fill it. If you rush to fill that silence with, but only by 10%, and I can still do that other thing for you for free, and I know it's a tough economy, you are justifying.
You're not communicating.
You are trying to manage their reaction instead of standing in your decision.
You're negotiating against yourself.
Exactly. You are bidding yourself down because you are afraid of the tension in the air.
This brings us to the next major section of the deep dive, which is the art of being misunderstood. Because if we stop justifying, if we stop filling that silence, we run the very real risk that people might think we're wrong or arrogant or making a huge mistake, and the source talks about letting people misunderstand you without panicking.
This is the advanced level. This is the black belt move of emotional intelligence right here.
So why do we panic? Is it just that fear of the tribe again? That we'll be kicked out of the cave?
It is. Misunderstanding feels like a direct threat to our social standing. If they misunderstand me, they might reject me, they might judge me, and that feels dangerous. So the panic response kicks in and we start babbling to fix the image they have of us.
We want to control their perception.
Yes, we want to reach into their brain and rearrange the furniture so they see us the way we want to be seen. It's a control issue.
But the source suggests we need to completely reframe this.
Yeah.
It says some people were never going to agree anyway. So if we accept that as a fact, how does that change our reaction in the moment?
If you can truly accept that misunderstanding is inevitable with certain people on certain topics, then you stop viewing it as a failure of your communication. You start to view it as a natural byproduct of growth.
I love that. Misunderstanding is a byproduct of growth. Can you unpack that a little more?
Think about it physically. If you are moving, you are creating distance between you and where you were. If you are growing, you are changing shape. If you are changing, you are becoming different from what people expect you to be. Therefore, you will be misunderstood. It's physics. You cannot transform your life and expect everyone who knew the old you to perfectly understand the new you instantly. It's impossible.
Almost like a tax on transformation.
Exactly. You have to pay the tax. And the taxes, people will think you are wrong. People will think you are foolish. People will think you are arrogant. People will think you're making a mistake.
And the expert analysis here is that accepting that, paying that tax willingly is a power move.
It's the ultimate power move. It signals both to them and, more importantly, to yourself, that your internal compass is stronger than external opinion. It's a question of whose reality is more real to you, yours or theirs.
That's a heavy question to ask yourself.
It is, but when you frantically explain, you are signaling that their understanding of your life is more important than your living of it. When you stop explaining, you are signaling that your internal reality is solid. You are comfortable in your own skin, even if that skin confuses them.
We talked earlier about the quiet drain on confidence. The source also mentions the flip side of this. When you stop the noise of explaining, you don't just stop the drain, you start to rebuild.
The noise of explaining covers up a quiet loss of self-trust. We talk so much and so fast that we don't notice we are losing our footing. But when you stop the explanation, when you embrace the silence, it quiets the external noise. And in that quiet, you can actually hear your own intuition again.
You build the muscle.
You rebuild the trust with yourself. You demonstrate to your own nervous system, I can survive this person thinking I'm wrong.
That's the key, isn't it? Survival. You prove to yourself it's not actually a life or death situation.
Yes. You hold the silence. They look at you skeptically. You don't die. The ground doesn't open up and swallow you. And once you realize you survived it, once you have that experience, you become unstoppable.
It's exposure therapy for your career. You just let someone think you're wrong, nothing bad actually happens, and you get stronger.
Yes. And frankly, people often respect the person who doesn't over-explain more than the person who does. There is a gravity to someone who states a decision and is comfortable with the silence that follows. It commands respect. It suggests, I have thought about this, I have decided, and I am moving on.
So we've covered the why, the cost, and the mindset. This is all great, but I want to get to the how. The source promises practical ways to make decisions without needing consensus. And we have 3 specific strategies to break this cycle. I want to walk through these tactically, step by step.
Let's do it.
Strategy number 1 is identify the audience.
This goes back to that idea of the people who don't get it. Before you even open your mouth to share a decision, run a quick diagnostic in your head. Ask yourself, is this person in front of me right now capable of understanding this specific choice?
That sounds a bit, I don't know, judgmental, like we are deciding who is smart enough to get us.
It's not about intelligence. It's about perspective, experience, values. It's a compatibility check of their mental framework.
Oh.
If you are talking to a risk-averse family member who has worked the same government job for 40 years about your new crypto investment,
They might not have the framework to understand it.
exactly. They view investing as bonds and savings accounts. Their software can't run your program.
Right. They are playing a different game on a different operating system.
If you are talking to a lifelong corporate employee about the nuances of freelance cash flow, they may not be capable of understanding the stress simply because they haven't lived it. You wouldn't try to explain quantum physics to a toddler. Not because the toddler is bad or unintelligent, but because they lack the foundational framework.
And you wouldn't explain your new SaaS startup strategy to someone who thinks a job means a 9 to 5 with a pension plan. Their framework doesn't support your data.
Precisely. So if your internal diagnostic comes back, no, they probably won't get this, then the strategy is simple. Stop explaining before you start. Do not engage in the detailed why. Give them the headline and move on. I'm starting a new venture. We're moving. That's it. Save the deep dive for people who have the context to get it.
That alone would save so much energy, just categorizing the interaction before it starts. This is a headline conversation, not a deep dive conversation.
And you save yourself the heartbreak of trying to force a square peg into a round hole over and over again.
Okay, strategy number 2. The hard stop. This is my favorite because it's so simple, but so incredibly hard to do.
The hard stop is all about practicing the difference between informing and justifying by using punctuation.
Punctuation, what do you think?
Period. We need to fall in love with the period. We need to see it as our friend. I am not taking on new clients right now, period.
And I am not taking on new clients right now because my kids are sick and I'm really overwhelmed and my other project is taking up all my time.
Exactly. The word because is the enemy here, unless it is technically required for logistical clarity. If you are explaining a project delay to a client, you might need a because. But for personal boundaries, no because is needed. The period is a full sentence. Your decision is the full reason.
Let's try it. Let's role play. I'll invite you to something and you give me a hard stop.
Okay, I'm ready. Go.
Hey, are you coming to the networking mixer tonight? It's going to be great. Lots of potential leads for you. You should really be there.
I can't make it tonight. Have a great time, though.
That's it. You are going to tell me you have a headache or a previous engagement or a deadline.
No, I can't make it. Period.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It feels aggressive. It feels cold.
Does it? Or does it feel aggressive to you, the speaker? Because you are used to over-softening everything. You are used to wrapping your no in 10 layers of bubble wrap so it doesn't hurt anyone. But how did it actually sound to you as the listener, honestly?
Honestly, it sounded fine. It just sounded clear. I didn't feel insulted at all. I just thought, oh, okay, he's busy, and my brain moved on.
That is the magic. We project all this aggression and coldness because we are feeling the anxiety of setting the boundary. But to the listener, it usually just sounds like clarity. And there's tremendous power in that brevity.
Huge power and practical utility too, right? Because the more you talk, the more surface area you give them to argue with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's it exactly. If you say, I can't come because I have work to do, they can say, oh, just bring your laptop. If you say, I can't come because I'm tired, they can say, come for just one drink. It'll wake you up.
But if you just say, I can't come, period.
There is nothing for them to grab onto. It is a smooth, polished surface. You become Teflon. Their arguments just slide right off.
That is tactical genius. Reduce the surface area for debate. Okay, strategy number 3. Recognize the validation loop. We touched on this earlier, but how do we actually break it in the moment?
This requires some real-time self-awareness. You have to catch yourself in the act. We said the validation loop is scanning for the nod.
I do this constantly. I think we all do this. You're watching their eyes, you're watching their body language, waiting for them to light up with understanding.
So the trigger is this. If you catch yourself looking for the nod and you don't get it, what do you do? The instinct is to keep talking, to talk until you get the nod. That moment is the trigger. The moment you realize you are talking just to get the nod, you must stop.
Abort mission. Eject.
Immediately, even if it's awkward, even if you are in the middle of a sentence.
Really? Mid-sentence. That sounds so awkward.
You can literally just stop mid-thought and pivot, say something like, anyway, that's what's happening, and then immediately change the subject. Or check your watch. Or take a sip of water. You have to physically break the loop of, I will talk until you approve.
Because if they don't approve, you will be talking forever.
And you will talk yourself into a hole. You will start making promises you don't want to keep or apologizing for things you shouldn't apologize for just to relieve the tension of the moment. The hard stop we just talked about is the tool you use to break the loop. You deliver the news, you pause, and then you move on.
Anyway, that's what's happening. I love that phrase. It's a conversational bridge to nowhere. It just ends the topic cleanly.
It signals the reporting phase of this conversation is over. We are now moving on.
These are such practical, actionable things, but I want to zoom out for a second as we get ready to land this. I'm going to circle back to the mission statement of this deep dive. We said the goal were to dismantle the need for validation so we can stop delaying growth.
And that is the key connection that I hope everyone hears. This isn't just about social awkwardness or avoiding uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinners. It's about speed. It's about velocity.
Right. If you are carrying the weight of everyone's opinion and their potential misunderstanding, you are moving slow. You are trudging through mud.
Imagine you are running a race, a 100-meter sprint. But before every single step, you have to turn to the crowd in the bleachers and explain why you are taking that step.
Okay, everyone, I'm stepping with my left foot now because of the biomechanics of leverage. I'm breathing this way because of oxygen efficiency.
You will never finish the race. The other runners will be miles ahead before you've even gotten halfway.
It really is that stark. You cannot perform at a high level and simultaneously narrate and justify your performance for the cheap seats. The source says, you don't need everyone's understanding to keep moving forward. That is the mantra.
Clarity is for you. That's what sticks with me from all this. You need to be crystal clear on your decision. You need to understand your why, but you do not need to export that clarity to everyone around you. That is a liberation. Clarity is an internal asset, not an external product. You don't have to package it up and sell it to every person you meet. You just have to use it to guide yourself.
So as we wrap this up, let's just recap the journey we went on. We started with that craving for validation, that biological, deep-seated need to be safe, to be in the tribe. We realized that explaining is often just permission-seeking in a trench coat.
And we looked at the real costs, the lost confidence, that slow leak, the delayed growth, the sheer emotional exhaustion of trying to convert the unconvertible day after day.
And we realized that being misunderstood isn't a failure. It's a side effect of doing something interesting with your life.
It is the cost of entry for a life of your own design. If you want a standard, off-the-shelf life, you will be easily understood. If you want a unique, self-authored life, you will be misunderstood. You have to pick one.
Pick one. That's the choice. So here's the final provocative thought for our listeners, something to mull over as you go about your week. It builds on everything we've talked about.
We often tell ourselves that we are explaining out of respect for other people. I owe them an explanation. I don't want to be rude, but I want you to consider this. Is it actually a profound lack of respect for yourself?
Ooh, okay. That hits hard. Are you saying we respect their potential opinion more than our own actual decision?
I am. When you over-explain, you are implicitly saying your potential disapproval matters more to me than my own certainty. That is a fundamental disrespect to your own judgment, your own intuition, and all the work you did to arrive at that decision.
So the challenge is to respect your own judgment enough to let it stand on its own, to let it stand naked without the armor of 1,000 explanations.
Precisely.
And the practical challenge is this. If you stop trying to make people get it today, right now, this afternoon, how much faster would you be moving toward your actual goal?
That is the question. How much speed are you sacrificing for a comfort that never actually arrives?
I mean, for a lot of us, the answer is a lot. We are trading velocity for validation.
And it's a bad trade every single time.
Thank you for unpacking this with me. This was incredibly illuminating and a little painful in a good way.
My pleasure. The good stuff is always a little painful.
And to our listeners, thank you for being here. Go make some decisions, use some periods, stop looking for the nod, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.